After trying to sabotage President Trump's peace deal with Israel and Hamas, well, EU leaders are now rushing to praise President Trump following the announcement that Israel and Hamas have accepted the terms and signed the deal. The European Commission president posted on X saying she welcomes the agreement to President Trump's proposal. French President Emmanuel Macron also posting on X saying, in part, quote, I commend the efforts of President Trump as well as the Qatari, Egyptian and Turkish mediators who helped make it happen. Here with reaction, he is the host of the hit show, Life, Liberty, Levin, right here on the Fox News channel. I call him the great one, Mark Levin. Mark, I see three major things that happen here. He built a relationship and convinced Arab countries that have been reluctant and resistant to help to get involved in the peace process. Number two, he showed Israel, number one, they had no greater ally or friend in the White House ever than Donald J. Trump. And number three, when he hit Iranian nuclear sites and took them out, he sent a message to the world that he means what he says. What's your take?
I agree 100%. Actually, I think this is bigger than people realize. You have now a complete paradigm shift in the Middle East. Russia has no influence. Communist China has no influence. Feckless Europe has no influence. The superpower that has influence now in the entire Middle East, which is such a crucial region of the world, is the United States of America. Now, let's think about what's taken place here. The terrorist axis of Iran, Hezbollah, and Hamas has been effectively defeated. The Israelis, the IDF, defeated Hezbollah. 12 days of war, they defeated Iran. The President of the United States took out their threat of nuclear weapons, which has been a threat overhanging the world for nearly half a century. And Hamas is surrounded, and now they have to agree to a deal. All of this was driven by the president and the prime minister. If Biden had been president, we'd have a complete unmitigated disaster. We'd have a nuclear-armed Iran, and none of this would be happening. You have a complete realignment in the Middle East. The most powerful military force in the Middle East today is the State of Israel. The most consequential government and country in the entire Middle East is the United States of America, a complete paradigm shift. This has worldwide implications. It has implications for Europe, the Far East, the continent of Africa, the Western Hemisphere, because what Donald Trump has managed to do in alliance with the Prime Minister of Israel has changed the whole map. He's changed the economic consequences, all the oil that comes out of the Middle East and so forth. The power of the United States. We're not a conquering power. We're not an imperial power. We're not a colonial power. This man, Donald Trump, is able to do this through economic and diplomacy decisions, through tactical, directed military decisions. We have never, ever seen anything like this. I think about the collapse of the Soviet Union. Maybe it's something akin to that. But people will be writing about this forever. And what does Donald Trump say? Okay, on to Ukraine and Russia. Like it's the next thing that we have to resolve in the world. It's really, really quite remarkable, Sean. And you're right. The decision to take out those nukes was key. It sent a message around the world. And it's not just that. I said in December 2019, when I was at the Hanukkah party at the White House, I said, Donald Trump is the first Jewish president. And what did I mean by that? His unequivocal support for the Holy Land, for the people who live there. Look, allies don't always agree. FDR and Churchill didn't always agree. Reagan and Thatcher didn't always agree. It doesn't matter. The fact is that fundamentally, Trump and Netanyahu agreed. And it's because of that partnership the Israelis defeated this axis of terrorism. It's because of that partnership Donald Trump. Hey, you know, these Arab countries aren't all buddies. They used to fight with each other. Saudi Arabia hated Qatar. I could go down the list. We act like they're this uniform group of Arab. It wasn't that way until Donald Trump stepped in and he offered them. You want diplomacy. You want access to the United States. You want economic access to benefit both countries. Join us. That's what he did. That's what they did. He says to the Israelis, I have your back. I will not We will get the hostages out. I will not allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. And here's the other point. Everybody wanted Iran defeated. I don't care, maybe except for Qatar, but everybody wanted Iran defeated. Saudi Arabia wanted nothing to do with Iran. UAE wanted nothing to do with Iran. The whole alphabet of Arab and Muslim countries, because Iran was an outlier. All of these dictatorships, whether they're monarchies or whatever they are, they all feared the same terrorists. They didn't want to be overthrown. The king of Jordan, the military dictator in Egypt, and I can go on and on. That some of them are all hanging by a thread. They all wanted this enemy defeated. And now it's defeated. The question is, on this phase 2, what's going to happen with Hamas? How do we make sure that they are disarmed for good? How do we make sure that Gaza is, in fact, demilitarized? Because the ideology behind Hamas, Iran, and Hezbollah will not go away. It's been around for thousands of years. It's the Muslim Brotherhood. It's the Taliban. It's ISIS. It's all of them. So it'll be curious to see how this works out. But let me just say this. However it works out, the world is a better place. It's a safer place. It's a more humane place because of our great president. God bless him, and God bless our country, and God bless the prime minister in Israel, too.
The great one. That's why we call you that. Mark Levin, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.